Welcome to the Wellness Lab Digest, where we help you to absorb powerful, life-changing insights from top wellness experts with our daily bite-sized wellness podcast summaries. Each episode is packed with distilled, powerful takeaways to boost your health and well-being. To support this podcast, please scroll down on whatever app you're listening. Ratings and reviews are helpful. Even better, just send the show to a friend. Check out our sponsors at the bottom of the page, or simply click the Support the Show link below the episode description. You know what blows my mind? Scientists just discovered that babies under 15 months old have metabolisms that burn 50% more energy than adults, completely upending everything we thought we knew about aging and metabolism.
Well, that's fascinating. And here I always thought our metabolism peaked in our teenage years. How did researchers figure this out?
So this groundbreaking study from 2021 looked at over 6,400 people across 29 countries, from newborns to 95-year-olds. And what they found really challenges the conventional wisdom about metabolism declining steadily as we age.
Let me guess. All those complaints about metabolism slowing down in our 30s and 40s might not be entirely accurate?
That's exactly right. The study showed that after that initial baby peak, our metabolism decreases about 3% annually until age 20. But then, and here's the surprising part, it actually plateaus until around age 60.
But then why do so many people struggle with weight gain in middle age? There must be other factors at play.
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. You see, while our base metabolism stays fairly stable, we start losing muscle mass at a rate of about 1% per year from middle age. And since muscle burns more calories than fat, that gradual loss can have a big impact on our overall calorie burn.
And I imagine hormonal changes play a significant role too, especially during menopause?
Absolutely right. There was this fascinating study in The Lancet that showed postmenopausal women had notably different metabolic responses after eating compared to premenopausal women. Their blood glucose levels were higher, and they showed more insulin resistance.
You know what's interesting about that? The study also found that women on hormone replacement therapy had better metabolic responses, suggesting estrogen might be a key player in maintaining metabolic health.
And it's not just women. Men experience significant hormonal changes too. Research from the University of Sheffield found strong evidence linking low testosterone levels to metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes.
So what you're saying is that while our basic metabolism might stay stable longer than we thought, there are all these other factors, muscle loss, hormones, activity levels, that affect how our bodies process energy as we age.
Exactly. And speaking of activity levels, there's some pretty sobering data showing that physical activity typically decreases by 40 to 80% as we age. That's a massive drop that can really impact our daily calorie burn.
Well, that brings up an interesting point about this concept of metabolic age I've been hearing about. What's the science behind that?
So metabolic age compares your metabolic rate to others in your age group. While some research suggests a lower metabolic age correlates with better health markers, the science is still pretty preliminary. In fact, a paper from Current Developments in Nutrition specifically called out the need for more research to validate the concept.
That makes sense. It seems like we might be better off focusing on things we can actually control, rather than worrying about some arbitrary metabolic age number.
Right, and that's where the really actionable research comes in. For instance, that 2019 study from Frontiers in Physiology showing that people can continue building muscle mass well into their 70s, whether they're new to strength training or have been doing it for years.
That's incredibly encouraging. What other practical steps can people take to support their metabolism as they age?
Well, protein intake is crucial. Your body actually burns more energy digesting protein than it does processing carbs or fat. Plus, adequate protein helps maintain that all-important muscle mass we talked about earlier.
And I understand sleep plays a bigger role than most people realize.
That's right. The 2022 sleep study in older adults found that sleep restriction significantly impacts metabolic and hormonal function. They actually recommended a pretty specific sleep schedule, in bed before 10 p.m. and up no later than 6 a.m.
Though I imagine sticking to such a rigid schedule might be challenging for many people.
True, but what's really fascinating is how our gut health ties into all of this. Recent research is showing that certain gut microbes are directly linked to better metabolic control. It's like we have this whole additional metabolic system operating through our microbiome.
So, what's the practical takeaway there? Is it just eating more varied plant foods and including pre- and probiotics?
That's part of it, but it's really about creating this comprehensive approach to metabolic health. Think of it like conducting an orchestra. You need all the sections playing together: strength training, protein intake, good sleep, and gut health.
And I suppose the earlier you start implementing these habits, the better positioned you'll be as you age?
Exactly, though it's never too late to start. That's probably the most empowering message from all this research. While some metabolic changes are inevitable, we have far more control than previously thought.
You know what strikes me about all this? It really challenges that common narrative about metabolism being this mysterious force that's completely out of our control.
Right? And when you look at the research as a whole, it paints this picture of metabolism as something that's actually quite resilient and responsive to our lifestyle choices, even as we age.
Though I imagine it's important to have realistic expectations about what we can and can't control.
Absolutely. We can't stop aging, but we can be proactive about maintaining our metabolic health through evidence-based strategies. It's about working with our biology, not against it.
And it seems like the key is consistency rather than trying to find some magic solution.
Precisely. The research shows it's these sustained healthy habits that make the real difference. Not crash diets or extreme exercise programs, but consistent, moderate efforts across multiple areas: exercise, nutrition, sleep, and stress management.
That's actually quite reassuring when you think about it.
It really is, and perhaps that's the biggest takeaway from all this research, that while our metabolism does change as we age, we're not helpless in the face of those changes. We have science-backed tools to help maintain our metabolic health throughout our lives.
And it sounds like those tools are actually quite straightforward, even if they're not always easy to implement.
That's right. The challenge isn't in understanding what to do, it's in making these practices part of our daily lives, but knowing that we can influence our metabolic health well into our later years. That's pretty powerful motivation. Thank you for listening to the Wellness Lab Digest. If you have received value from the podcast, I have 3 asks of you. 1, share the show with your friends and send them a link to the show. 2, please leave a rating and review in whatever app you're listening. And last but not least, please let me know what topics you would like us to cover in the future. You can contact me by sending me a message using the Send Us a Text link below the episode description.